it's an opportunity really for other nations to demonstrate that ultimately, whatever you might think about what's going on in the ground, ultimately international law has to be followed.
We had the interim ruling from the Court of the International Court of Justice, which ordered the Israeli government to report back on how it's taking steps to avoid harming civilians. It stopped short of calling for a complete ceasefire. But there's been a lot of reaction to that ruling. Yesterday on the programme, I spoke with Sir Geoffrey Nice. He's a KC. He was a lead prosecutor at Milosevic's trial. He's also chair of the China Tribunal. And let's listen to what Sir Geoffrey had to say about South Africa bringing this case in the first place.
South Africa acted exercising a power it has under the Genocide Convention, a power that every other country has, including our own, a power that actually may be a duty to act if you read Article 1 of the Convention. Slow though big powers and Western powers have been to recognise the significance of the earlier Gambia against Myanmar case, this one is harder for them to set aside. We'll begin to ask, why didn't you do this?
And then, of course, yesterday there was some very serious allegations that came to light about people who are working for UNRWA, which is the UN agency for Palestinian refugees. There was accusations that several employees were involved in Hamas's attacks on the 7th of November. A number of countries decided to suspend funding, including the UK, the US as well, Canada and Australia. Now, yesterday in the programme, I spoke with Sir Mark Lyle-Grant. He's the former National Security Advisor and Permanent Representative for the UK to the UN. And he told me that it was really important to make sure that UNRWA does continue to get aid funding.
UNRWA is not the only game in town in Gaza, but it's the most important. It's got 13,000 employees in Gaza, providing essential shelter, education, social services, health support to the Palestinian refugees in Gaza. They've had over 100 employees killed by the Israeli bombardment over the last 3 months. So it's very important that in suspending the funding for this particular UN agency, it doesn't mean the end of British government humanitarian support to the Palestinians.
So quite a bit to cover there, but let's focus on the ICJ ruling and these allegations about UNRWA. Sarah Olney, I'll come to you first. What's your reaction to all of this? Let's start with the ICJ ruling.
Well, the Liberal Democrats have been calling for an immediate bilateral ceasefire in Israel-Gaza for many months now. And I think there's no doubt in our minds that what we need to be looking at is what's the path to peace here. And clearly, we're a very, very long way from it. But everything we do, everything we say as a nation should be focused on how we might be able to achieve that goal. Thinking about the ICJ, I thought it was, obviously as a party and as a nation, everyone here should be committed to supporting and upholding international law, and this is a ruling on a point of international law, and the absolute importance of international law. And I mean, I think it's an opportunity really for other nations to demonstrate that ultimately, whatever you might think about what's going on in the ground, ultimately, international law has to be followed. I think it's, but as I say, that the international law in itself and establishing what's happening here is just about, and should just be a path to finding a sustainable solution for peace. But more than anything else, I think what everybody wants to see is a humanitarian bilateral ceasefire so that we can get aid to those who are suffering, get the hostages out. And if this ruling is something that we can use as a way of achieving that end, then I think that we should be certainly looking at it in that light.
And do you think the UK was right to suspend its funding to UNRWA in light of these allegations?
I think we need to urgently discover what the truth of the allegations are. My understanding is that there's been allegations that UNRWA staff, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this, but that UNRWA staff might have had a role in their Hamas attacks on October the 7th. And if that's the case, then clearly those are very serious allegations. We really need to understand exactly what's happened there. And I think it's important to stress also the UK not acting alone in this. It's a number of other countries as well. But I think, again, getting back to that, the importance of providing humanitarian assistance, we urgently need to find other routes to get aid in.